How can mindfulness change your personal life? Now, in order for this to really hit, we need to understand that we are present for less than 25% of the day. Now, this is important because it highlights that we live out the remaining 75% lost in thought. It's also crucial to know that the majority of the thoughts we dwell on during our waking hours are random and unwanted. Mindfulness shows us that we need only sit for a few minutes and observe this relentless string of thoughts that arise. Sit for a moment with your eyes closed and, like a scientist, take note of all the thoughts that pop up. You may be surprised at what you see. Furthermore, try not to think of anything. You'll notice that no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to stop the waves of thinking. It's actually impossible to go a full minute without having a thought. Well, at least for 99.99999% of the world's population. Now, the wonderful benefit of mindfulness is that with every thought that arises, we're given choice that we never knew we had. With every thought observed, we train our minds to constantly and consistently return back to our anchor. And in this case, it could be the breath, it could be a conversation, but the idea that we're constantly noticing a thought and bringing it back. This is a skill that is hard to learn and hard to cultivate. But just like learning an instrument or a sport, it takes practice. We do this formal practice each day so that throughout the rest of the day, when the real meditation takes place, we can execute our training and implement our mindful tool. As thoughts arise, we bring our attention back to the present moment, back to the book we were reading, back to the email we were writing, back to the meal we were eating, back to the conversation we were having. We learn how to be present and in the now, and ultimately we start growing the percentage of the day that we are present. Being present is the real benefit of mindfulness. Mindfulness gives us choice we never knew we had. We spend on average 75% of the day lost in thought, and this is very concerning because that means we're only spending 25% of it being present. The crucial point is that if we had choice, we would rather spend most of our waking hours being present versus being in a zombie-like daydream state. Mindfulness teaches us how to be aware of the thoughts as they arise so that we can choose to follow it or be present. This is choice we never knew we had. In each moment, there's a choice to be present. Now, the beauty of learning how to be mindful is that we introduce in our lives a new way of being. Rather than the need to go wall climbing or running or in the gym, or insert anything that you do to escape, you can at any moment decide to drop in and switch from thinking to being present. This is the real benefit of mindfulness. Not just stress reduction or more productivity. It's learning how to live your life moment to moment in the present moment. We can't avoid negative thoughts, but we can learn to change the relationship with them. We can also learn to reduce the amount of time we spend dwelling on them too. For example, 2 managers get fired on the very same day. The thoughts that follow for both may be some of shock, uncertainty, worry, embarrassment, sadness, urgency to find another job. The first manager is overwhelmed with the thoughts and cannot get them out of his head, being essentially a prisoner to the thoughts, whilst the second manager will experience similar thoughts but is trained to set boundaries. They notice the thoughts as they arise, for example on the way home, and they use their trained muscle of bringing attention back to the anchor, back to their breath, and they choose to be present versus lost in thought. When they get home and they're at the dinner table, the thoughts arise. They choose to be present during dinner versus being lost in thought. And remember, you can't stop the thoughts from arising, which they will, but you can learn to nip them in the bud. The more you practice, the quicker you are at noticing them arise, so the quicker you are to do that nipping in the bud. They can learn to choose not to dwell on them and ultimately reduce the total amount of time during the day spent on negative thinking. This gives us choice we never knew we had. Now, of course, the more hurtful and the more stressful the pain is, The following thoughts will be harder to manage, harder to bring back to the breath, harder to redirect. This is why we carry out the daily formal practice. This is our wax on, wax off, so that we can battle throughout the rest of the day against the relentless waves of thought. A quote that I love from Dale Carnegie that depicts this wonderfully is, "Two men looked out from prison bars. One saw the mud, the other saw the stars."